welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for 2019, and I promised myself I would stop singing the 2019. But I'm not gonna because I like it too much, and I don't know. Anyway, joining me tonight, or today, or tomorrow, or Tuesday, because after all it's your podcast, is a man who you could say that his games have a stronghold on my heart. You could say that if he was conducting an orchestra, he wouldn't just get an encore, he'd get a Buonocore. It's from Stronghold Games.
Oh, that's got to be the worst puns ever. Come on. Oh, very good. Very, very clever. I like it.
Do you like that?
Richard, thank you so much for having me on. This is great.
I'm absolutely delighted, and I must be, I'm kind of nervous, but I'm also excited, so I might say some stupid things, but there's no change, or there's no change to kind of normal. For everybody who's listening for the first time, the reason that we do this is quite simply because it's kind of like Star Trek and the Enterprise, and we're on an ongoing mission to kind of seek out kind of people to talk to about the hobby. And, on the off chance, I had an interaction on Twitter with Stephen and said, hey, do you fancy coming on the show? And I was expecting to get blocked, and he said yes. And then there's been emails, and then now we're here, and it's a fantastic place.
This is great. Absolutely.
So how are you doing anyway? How are you on this fine day?
Oh, it's great. It's cold here in Florida. It barely made 70 degrees today. I don't know. You guys use Celsius, right? So I can't calculate that, but that's probably around 20 Celsius or something like that.
I do. I do work in Fahrenheit because I do have friends in California.
There you go.
And all across the US, so it was a balmy 32 degrees Fahrenheit here today, so it was a little bit. There's a little bit of snow.
It's actually been a bit of a cold front here in South Florida, but still, even with a cold South Florida, it's so much warmer than every place else across, everywhere almost. So yeah, and right now, I just saw this on the news this morning, there's record cold temperatures across almost half the United States right now. It's in Fargo, North Dakota. Okay, that's pretty darn far up there. It's minus 57 degrees with the wind. Okay, so that's with the wind chill. But in Chicago, which is cold, certainly, and very windy during this time of year.
Yeah.
It's like minus 30 plus. It's just terrible right now. So while I like to joke about how wonderful the Florida weather is, and I torture my New Jersey friends, because that's where I just moved from there about a year ago down here to South Florida. I torture them with pictures of me in the pool in the winter and stuff like that. I do hope that everybody, both in the US and across Europe, and all of the listeners, stay warm, be careful, because temperatures like that obviously are, life-threatening, really bad.
So have you put on a light jumper today, or maybe a slight cardigan because of how cold it's been?
I'm in
Florida.
I'm in shorts and a t-shirt like I am every day. I make a joke about it. I say I have a no pants policy when I'm in Florida. I mean, no long pants, of course. I wear shorts all the time. The only time I put long pants on is if I go to a fancy restaurant and I put on a pair of jeans. That's it. I mean, it's just a policy I have because it's so nice out here. So it's I'm blessed to have had the opportunity, the means, and everything to move my life, and the company and everything from New Jersey, which has its pluses, but weather is not one of them. So leaving there was a blessing, and it's a really nice thing to be down here in Florida.
Was this as a company decision just to kind of move? Was it the entire base of operations that you moved down to Florida then? Or
Well, that opens up a very big question. When I decided to move to Florida, it took a while. It took a while to do the whole thing. You have to get the house in order. You got several steps. So it took a year and a half at least to actually do that move. But moving a company is much easier than you think when it's a game publishing company that's not like, Asmodee, because we are all very small operations for the most part. So literally it was moving two employees down and a cat, and bringing that down to Florida. And most of the rest of the company was like my illustrator and graphic designer, Bill. He's out in Ohio, so he works remotely. And that essentially was the whole company until just this past year, when, of course, as you know, I believe, Stronghold Games and Indie Boards and Cards merged, creating a new parent company called Indie Game Studios, but still having the brand Stronghold Games, which I am the president of, and I manage that brand. And Travis Worthington is the CEO of the entire group, and he manages the brand of Indie Boards and Cards. And we have hired aggressively. So now we are actually at 12 or 13 full-time people. And that's pretty astonishing if you think that both of us managed one-person companies only 2 years ago or so. 2 years ago and a half, say, both of us were a one-man, one-person company, and now we're 12, 13 people strong.
So were you like the Jamie Stegmaier kind of operation where you brought people in kind of as you needed them, on kind of like a freelance basis, an ad hoc basis, and now you're in the situation where you've actually got kind of like staff and everything that kind of comes along with that?
Absolutely, yeah. Jamie, what a great guy, and he's been great for the hobby too, so kudos to him, and he's just a wonderful, honest individual. I love the guy. I met him a couple of years ago, and it was just a great time to talk to him. But exactly that, you start small, and then all of a sudden you hit critical mass for something, and then you have to bring somebody on. And then you hit critical mass for something else, and you have to bring somebody on. And then once we merged, so we both Travis and I both did that independently to a certain extent. And then when we merged the companies, we realized that we now had critical mass on a lot of things, including cash flow and profitability. And now he said, like, okay, well, we got to spend some of this, and we're going to bring on project managers to take on many of the projects that we do. We're going to bring on a marketing person, full-time marketing. One small company can't have a full-time marketer, but a larger company, and we're now one of the largest in North America, we can do that, and that makes sense. And you get better. You get people who can be more specialized and more focused on a job, and that just works out for everything and everybody.
Is it resulted in you having to reawaken some of the older skills that you maybe had? Because you've been, you've been a lot involved in a couple of Fortune companies. Was it a case of you kind of dusting off the old kind of suit jacket and, obviously with short sleeves, and kind of like awakening the skills that you kind of used to have, and say, okay, we've got to get our back to kind of like being a bit corporate now and stuff like that? No, that's so no, I would say that's not the case. Where, this is a very casual industry on every level. And certainly we're not looking at it like, we need bureaucracy involved. What we do need is people with specialized skills who can focus on one thing versus somebody that you hire that's a generalist and has to do many things. For example, Bill Bricker, who was my director of art and marketing for Stronghold alone, he is, by his very nature, an illustrator. This is what he loves to do, and this is what he's best at. An artist, right? He wants to draw pretty pictures. But he took on the role of not only that, plus graphic designer, which is a very different skill set, related but different, plus doing my marketing, because I needed someone to help to do that. Now Bill can focus almost exclusively on drawing pretty pictures, so he is now my director of art. We've passed off all of his marketing work to Kira Peevely, who is part of the combined company. She used to work at Colossal Games. She is amazingly talented person. So I know Kira. I know Kira through Colossal, and we've chatted a few times anyway. So she's a great. Wonder. Yeah.
Absolutely. So she's not full-time with us, but she's almost full-time. She's consulting, but so she has a couple of other much smaller clients, but she's really doing almost everything, for us, and certainly all of our marketing. And like graphic design that Bill still does some, but we had, or Travis had on his staff already a full-time graphic person. So that's Daniel Solis. And so Bill has been able to give him some of that work. So you give people, you focus on someone's strengths, and that's going to make them more productive and the company better. Now, does that mean it's more corporate because people are siloed? I wouldn't say that, but it makes people more efficient and probably enjoy the work that they do even more.
Yeah. Because they're no longer having to be kind of like doing multiple hats, wearing the multiple hats, multiple days. And I know sometimes if you haven't got a defined role, it can lead to you being a little bit kind of jaded quite easily if you feel there's like a little bit too much kind of on your shoulders in terms of kind of responsibilities. And people are usually good because of a kind of passion. The games themselves obviously still remain the main passion behind it. I have a copy of Escape from Atlantis on my shelf, and it comes out again and again and again all the time, and it's always been kind of good fun. Do you still go back to the kind of the first kind of games that you published? Do you still get them on the table? Do you still, are you likely to be, if we walked into the office, you'd be pushing about in a boat with a couple of survivors on it while you're flipping a couple of island discs over it?
We're so focused. This industry, for better or for worse, is really focused on the cult of the new, right? So we have to always be marketing, pushing, demoing, showing people what's new and what's hot and what we really need to kind of push. So Survive is a great example. Survive was my biggest selling game. Yeah. And in total units, I'd have to actually do the math. It's still pretty close to my number one selling, with, of course, Terraforming now going absolutely bananas and going past that. So Survive, I do not demo that game for people these days, unless it's like maybe a family member who's not a gamer. Therefore, I'll pull it out and show it to them. But like for the general gaming public, no. But neither do I demo Terraforming Mars, because that game has got a life of its own. It's doing what it's doing. So I'll take some of my new hit products, new products that I want to make hits. Flamme Rouge, for instance. This game keeps going up and up and up and up in the ratings. And we've been showing it off. And every time I show off that game, I think I sell 2 more copies of it, because it's that much fun. It's that good of a design, and you can play it with anybody. In fact, I showed that game over the holidays to my family, and they are, like I said, not gamers. And I put it in front of them. I said, we're going to play this bicycle racing game. They're like, what? Bicycle racing? I'm like, yeah, trust me on this. Bike racing. I know. It's a European thing. We don't even know what bikes are in this country. It's a bicycle racing game. Just trust me on that. My brother's into sports and stuff. He's like, all right, whatever. Yeah. He played. He goes, I am the greatest player at this game of all time. This game is great. I love it. I want a copy. I'm like, okay, take this one with you. Goodbye. And now he loves the game. So, so it's about really what we need to show off at any given time. And then, so it's very situational. Yeah.
But Flamme Rouge is like what I would call a discoverable game. As in, something like Terraforming Mars, huge wave of hype behind Terraforming Mars. Flamme Rouge is one of these games that somebody will kind of bring to the table and say, well, we could play this. And then, as you say, it's everybody that says, oh, have you played Flamme Rouge? It's like, I haven't yet. And it's like, you need to play this game because it's really, really good. It doesn't seem to be one that I've seen people shouting and screaming from the skies, but it seems to have consistently people just saying, played Flamme Rouge for the first time last week, really, really thoroughly kind of enjoyed myself, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And we're going to be supporting that game going forward. We already have one expansion. The second one's coming out really soon. So that's Flamme Rouge Meteo. It's weather effects on the track. So that's going to be really good. So yeah, it's an exciting time here at the Stronghold. It really is.
We talk Cult of the New, but with games like, obviously, like Flamme Rouge having the success, and you keep talking about the expansions, and obviously the number of expansions that have come out for Terraforming Mars. when you've got a game like that in your hands and you've bottled lightning, as you would say, is that the way forward? Kind of building on that, kind of adding in expansions, adding in kind of little additions, just to kind of to add on additional kind of playability to the game. Like they've done with, like, say, Battlestar Galactica and things like that. Did you see that as a way kind of forward to kind of keep the interest in Terraforming Mars kind of going, or was it always something that was in the game plan? Was there always kind of expansions kind of sitting there waiting to come to the table with it?
Very good question. Well, Terraforming Mars is a product that we got from Fricks Games, right? That's the design house. They own the IP. We license it from them. When they pitched it to us, we took a lot of time and worked with them. They are a young company. They had other designs. They were not successful. When they pitched us, we said, whoa, there's something really interesting here. Not only is Mars, of course, like such a big thing in both pop culture and science right now, because I've been saying, in my lifetime, and I'm a lot older than you, in my lifetime, I believe that I am going to witness people setting foot on Mars, which is a astonishing thing. It's a lot harder than going to the moon, which we did with 1960s technology. Anyway, So it's a big thing in people's minds. So besides that, I said, this game has really got something here. It's got like everything that most kind of Euro gamers like, yet using a theme that's not Euro. This could have some interesting traction. So we worked with them to make that game even better than it was originally. I had a developer that was on my team, and he worked tirelessly with them back and forth and put it into a really great place. It took us an extra year to get it there. And in that time, they had been working on ideas for expansions. So they didn't really tell us about that. But and every game, the designers have an idea for an expansion. Yeah. But you don't really want that yet. You want to see that the game is going to work and the reception to the game. But they had those ideas. They were able to independently develop those ideas even further, which was great. So then when Terraforming Mars hit, and it was such a success, we immediately had, the year after it came out, which was mid-late 2016, then in 2017 we were able to release 2 more expansions that year, and they're very good ones, and 2 more expansions in 2018, also very well received. And we have already kind of sort of announced a 5th one for this year, but I'm not supposed to talk too much about it until we are trying to. I got in trouble recently for talking out of turn. Yeah, I did. Because, they're young guys and they want to control the news cycle. I get it. So it proved one thing to them and to me that, like, when Buonocore speaks, people are kind of listening. So it went like geek viral. It was all over BGG, and oh my God, they got this coming. I'm like, oh my God, now I'm really in trouble. So I
was this the legacy thing?
Oh gosh, yeah. That was the big one, but then there was also the mention. So yeah, the legacy one is not coming this year. That I got to squash immediately. That's a longer term project. Who knows? And they've kind of admitted to it now too. But I also mentioned the name of the expansion coming out. So there will be one coming this year in 2018, right. And only one. We're gonna hold it to one. So we want to slow down just a little bit, but it's a big expansion. So it changes the climate, and I mean that as a pun, not as literally. It changes the tone of the game.
Like a thermometer at the side or something like that.
It changes the tone of the game for those who want, just even more meat. So, makes it a little bit bigger of a game in some ways, but, not that you need to play with it all the time, or maybe people don't want that, which is fine. But it'll make the most material change that we have seen in the game so far. I'll leave it at that.
Is there big expectations for how people perceive kind of Terraforming Mars? Because for a while, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was actually called One Terraforming Mars, because every time I looked at the BBG chart, it was right up the very top, and I was like, and it was like. it was kind of like getting hen's. It was kind of like getting hen's teeth trying to get hold of a copy. It was kind of like, I've seen it for $80, $90, $100. There was no second-hand market. There was usually, even in the most popular games, it doesn't always kind of, people don't always click with everything, but there was never ever a kind of a spare copy of Terraforming Mars kind of going around.
We had a huge supply issue early on, and and it wasn't because we were constraining supply. Everyone gets, we got accused of it. People get accused of that, and it's just not true. I'm not in the business of not selling games. I'm in the business to sell you games.
Yeah.
So we did it. We took a nice big bet in the initial print run, and the demand was twice that size. So we printed the next print run. We printed twice the size, and the demand was twice again. So it just snowballed and snowballed. We've now throttled it, and we've got the number that we need to be printing on any given basis. So we're okay. We're not going to let it run out of stock for any length of time. You'll always have that it'll be in a month kind of thing, but we're not going to see any more real supply chain problems with that. We've got it down to how many we need to print at any given time, and it really is a great thing for the company and for gamers because it is that good of a game. I hear you're a really big fan of the game, aren't you?
I love the game. In fact,
really,
I totally adore Terraforming Mars.
So let me see what I read here now. You posted on Facebook that you weren't a fan. You appeared on the Sporadically Board Game podcast. You called it an overrated game. At Tabletop Scotland, it was your entry for Room 101. I don't even know what that means. That must be like a Britishism of some type. So, I'd
like to point out at the time that was actually my evil twin. Then that actually, if I can show you the Skype camera, you can actually see the tattoo.
There you go.
Terraforming Mars that I've got emblazoned across my chest.
There we go. All right, you've come around then, maybe.
Do you know what? It's one of these things. It was a perfect storm of events that sometimes something doesn't click, and it was one of those things that clicked. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that when you're on social media and you make a joke about something, it turned into a joke and it turned into a meme. Yes, I am trying to dig myself out of my pit. And speaking to the president of the game company, who's just told me about all the expansions that's coming on. And please don't hurt me and send the boys round. I'm too young to die.
You want me to send Guido and Sylvester over there to take care of you? What do you want me to do here? No.
What I look like an idiot here? Come on, you're embarrassing me. You're embarrassing yourself. Go and sit down. Sit down. You go and play Survive. You go and play with your little island and your little sharks. Yeah, you go play that little kiddies game.
That's pretty good.
I'm the shop. But
no, I always say, everybody has, not every game. If every game was for everybody, I don't know, then we'd all have no money because we'd be buying everything. But even the most popular games, I point out, let's not use Terraforming. Let's use Pandemic Legacy, okay?
Yeah.
As a really good example of a game that, in my humble opinion, not only it sets a standard for what, if you want to do a legacy game, the way to do it. It is absolutely brilliant in its concepts of what it did. Not, for that genre. There was, of course, one before that, at least. That was Risk Legacy that Rob did. But they now took this fantastic game system, and then he layered unbelievable legacy. Now, I guarantee there are people who say Pandemic Legacy sucks. They just will not play it because A, you gotta like cooperative. B, you gotta like a cooperative game that might be prone to the alpha gamer thing where, one person's telling everybody what to do because that's going to happen in that style of cooperative. And you gotta like legacy. So there's so many reasons why you might not like it. But if you like those things and you appreciate a great design, I think it is absolutely brilliant. I played it and I just think it is astonishing. And in general, legacy is just a great idea. So not every game is going to be for every person. So no, I do not fault you if you really don't like terraforming. Or certainly, I know that you said you had a bad first play experience, but that could just be who taught it, whatever. But I think terraforming is a brilliant design that not only will stand the test of time, but is great also because it's actually using like real projected science to in the game system. This is a major undertaking to actually terraform a new world. But, in 400 years from now, could we begin such a process with the way that it's kind of unfolding in the game? I think it's at least on some level feasible. It's feasible. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. Mm-hmm.
Did it change the direction of the company? I mean, were you when you went and published it, you obviously you said that the print run, we didn't live up to the print run. I mean, another game that seems to be suffering from print run kind of problems or supply and demand problems is Wingspan, to the point that Jamie Stegmaier wrote a blog piece just to say, guys, distributors, we need to have a talk about how we kind of forecast numbers and forecast print runs and stuff like that, because people want Wingspan and people are going crazy for Wingspan. With Terraforming Mars, as I say, did it change the kind of the direction of the company, and did you have to go to the whiteboard with a 5-year plan and just take the eraser and go, okay, well, that's that kind of done. Now what can we do? Did it kind of change the fortunes and help bring things forward before you were expecting them to happen?
Well, it was transformative for the company, and certainly it was a major factor in the merger with Indie Boards and Cards. Stronghold became a very attractive thing for a company to acquire or to merge with, and in the end, we decided that Travis Worthington and I decided that not only were we very good friends in the industry, not only did our companies grow up in a similar way at a similar time. He had hits with a lot of smaller games like Coup, The Resistance, Avalon, and not only that, but we could now bring the forces together and make a very large, even more successful company to really, and I use the term loosely, fight against the even bigger company mostly Asmodee, which is dominating the industry in mostly in not bad ways, because they have been in my humble opinion, a net positive for hobby gaming over time. But after a certain amount of time, having one company completely in control of so many big games and studios, etc., and distributors, they're getting a little bit too big to be comfortable for everybody else out there. So, us coming together to do what we're doing here is a part of a response to that market condition. And you see mergers and you see consolidation of companies in a healthy industry very often. It's not just hobby gaming. This is a small industry compared to most. Consolidation is huge so that you can then gain additional market share, gain talent, gain the mind share of the consumer, which is really what we're doing right now, right? We're putting the focus of the gamers who maybe they knew Stronghold and our titles. Oh, wow, look at this other company that's sitting alongside with their smaller titles, or vice versa. Travis and company did 40 plus successful Kickstarters. Now Stronghold, those people can now see what Stronghold's been doing. And of course, this gives us the ability to run Kickstarters because we now have the talent and the genius behind how to do it on staff right now.
Yeah. And that allows you to... The thing about Kickstarter is it slightly takes you outside the distribution network as well, is that Kickstarter allows, in some ways, for complete unknowns to actually get somewhere and get noticed as well, for kind of talent, new talent to get picked up, as well as old talent to kind of shine as well. And I think it is kind of important. I hear people talk about Asmodee. I mean, when I was talking to Isaac Vega, the other week, The Asmodee, they own Plaid Hat Games. So
yes,
he was
they
joking
do.
about, he was talking about the kind of like, we're still kind of kept kind of independent. And then for me, I've said this before, that I've seen big corporations take over video games, and what happens is that then you get little side effects like PR companies. That if Asmodee bought, say, yourselves out, then me trying to say, okay, Stephen, do you want to come on the podcast? It would be a case of, I'm sorry, you're going to have to speak to XYZ in the PR team, and we can discover if, I can discover if, if your numbers are big enough, or you've got a big enough reach or an expansion, or, and here's the questions you can ask. So I've seen that control within the video game space. And that is one of the parts of the things that concerns me about the board game space, is that if the corporates do sneak in and start to take control, yes, stay in the background, stay as the money guys, help with the distribution, help with things like that. But it's when they start to sneak in and trying to control the information and the critique that kind of scares me, which is, I think, guys, that's why guys like you are really, really important. If you know what I mean.
You know what, Richard? You know what I say? I'll promise you categorically right now that regardless of the future of indie game studios, Stronghold Games and Indie Boards and Cards, I will always be available to come on podcasts and meet the fans and stuff like that. I would never be part of any kind of merger or acquisition where they silenced me from being the person that I am, because I am now, have always been, and always will be a gamer and a social. I'm like the most social, most extroverted person on the planet, and I just want to be out there talking about games and evangelizing games with people that I like, and like podcasters. You guys do a great job to help the gamer know what's going on, give me a platform, and I'm always going to be on that platform as long as you allow me to. And I would never sell to someone who said, well, we got to have the control, where you're talking. No, I mean, if they want to control the information flow, like, well, don't talk about this project, we haven't announced it. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
I should have kept my mouth shut about Terraforming Mars Legacy, and I got my hand slapped. Even the president of the company get their hand slapped on that. But I would never not want to be on here just to say how wonderful the things are going between the companies and the projects that are now ongoing that we're allowed to talk about. That I will always do. I promise you that.
Yeah. With regards to, you mentioned Kickstarter, because that's something that you're now involved in that now, because you've got there is a Kickstarter on Kickstarter that's got Stronghold Games on the name on there, and that's AfterShock.
You like the way I kind of like transitioned into Kickstarter for you there. You like that, huh? I'm pretty good at this.
I took the little lead. I thought, okay, I'm being fed a line here. I better take it. Try to win back some grace. But you've got. Have you had much experience with Kickstarter before? Anyway, as in, have you been kind of did you back games and things like that? Or were you kind of like, well, it's a thing that is in the hobby, but I'm kind of staying away from it myself?
Well, Stronghold has run one Kickstarter in its entire time. That was 4 years ago, I believe, and it was for Space Cadets away missions. And the reason that I did it was to test the market. That's a $100 game, 102 plastic custom, miniatures in the game. It's a big plastic. So basically I was at the time 4 years ago trying to say, well, is there a market for Stronghold to be like the next Fantasy Flight? Can we be into that market? And it went very well. It didn't do millions, but it did 150,000-ish in that area. Did very well. Funded, successful game. People love it. They're still asking me to do expansions for the game. So that's my experience, but it was a lot of work and I did not want to go back to it myself. Meanwhile, sure, I've backed a few things here and there. The biggest thing that I backed there was a board game table. I wanted to get a nice table, and boardgamestable.com, they ran a Kickstarter. I did that. I've backed games from Andrew Parks like Dungeon Alliance. I always back things for like the Secret Cabal podcast, which I'm a major sponsor of. So I'm always backing and giving them money on that as well. And some books and some other small games and things like that. So I am not one of the biggest Kickstarter backers out there, but that's basically because also I like to also get my games when I do get them. I just like to go support the local game stores too. So I go out there and I buy games at local game stores when I can. Being on Kickstarter now, however, is completely different than me backing. It's a matter of having a great team behind me that can put this all together, manage it all. We all, of course, together create, what's going to go into this game and what we can offer in the stretch goals and what we can offer, in the aftermarket for it. We all do that together, and now we have a team that's going to execute this process for Stronghold Games. Otherwise, I could not do this alone with all the other work that I have to do as well.
Yeah. I mean, we finished the Kickstarter recently over Christmas period, and it's not a case that you're busy all the time, it's that you have to be aware all the time. And that's a draining thing. It's a case of keeping an eye on notifications and making sure that you're maintaining communication. And it's not a case of doing a to-do list, it's a case of having an open to-do list and being able to react. And unless you've got that time and you've got that space, I can understand that while people bring on a team to kind of manage it, because it's the expectation of not knowing what's going to happen, kind of thing. How to react to a comment? Do I release an update? It's not something you can timetable in. You just have to react to the time. If something good happens, send out an update. If there's comments on there, do you kind of react to them?
Exactly.
Do you want to talk a little bit about AfterShock itself?
Absolutely, would like to. Yeah? I think we should. Well, first of all, it just started today, so we're recording. Is it okay I tell everybody we're recording on Tuesday, January 29th. Yes. We started talking at 3 p.m. Eastern time. That's around 8 p.m. right by you in the UK. Yeah. Did I get that right? Okay.
Yeah, you did.
Time zones, very hard. It's a thing. So we're at 15, just a couple bucks under $15,000 funded now of the 20,000 goal. So obviously we're doing very well in only about whatever that comes out to, like 5-6 hours going. So we should be funded. We should be funded completely today, and then it's all the stretch goals all the time for the next 20 days. So hopefully, first of all, hopefully people out there who are listening can go just check out AfterShock Deluxe Edition on Kickstarter under the Stronghold Games banner. And we of course will have the game out in the aftermarket. We'll have it out to regular distribution after that. We don't do exclusives. I don't believe in exclusives. There are things you get for free if you back the Kickstarter, the stretch goals. Anything that's part of the Kickstarter that is not going to be in the retail edition, then we'll put that out like on the website or at conventions afterwards. I don't like exclusives. I think that gives people a bad taste. So you won't miss anything. You'll just get it first and probably maybe a little cheaper if you do it via the Kickstarter. But it's up to people. Just check it out to see if it's something for you anyway. So what is AfterShock? First of all, it's designed by Alan R. Moon and Bobby West. You might know the name Alan Moon. He is one of the most successful designers, of course, in the industry. Ticket to Ride being probably the biggest selling game, if not maybe the second biggest selling with Catan since the beginning of this hobby. Ticket to Ride can be purchased in like every store, even if it's not a game store, every card shop, every place. It's everywhere. It's just everywhere, and it is that good of a game, right? I mean, it's an amazing gateway game. Both of those games with Catan too are great games that can bring people into the hobby. Now, Ticket to Ride specifically has really stood the test of time from a design basis. I think Catan has aged a little bit, but be that as it may, both are great games and very important to the hobby. So Alan, who kind of went into retirement after he had so much success with this, and he had some other games, small games that came out. He kind of went into retirement a little bit. So the story is, but he's never stopped gaming, and he runs this gathering of friends, big invitation convention over in Syracuse, New York. In Niagara Falls, New York He lives in Syracuse. Once per year. In his game group, a young designer said, well, why don't we start working on some stuff? I'd like to get in, and, working with you would be an honor. And they started, and this is their first collaborative design, and it's brilliant. It really is. It is thematically what has happened is that major earthquakes have occurred across the planet. We've had some problems, and now the San Francisco Bay Area has been hit particularly hard, as we know. That's a real epicenter for earthquakes over the course of time. And now it's time to rebuild. So in AfterShock, you're going to be bringing in people and building bridges between the various portions of San Francisco, which have now basically parts of them have gone underwater. So you have to build bridges between the two. So it's an area control game and a route building game at the same time. The coolest part of it, it's a closed economy, so you get money in the beginning of the game, and as you spend it, it's going to go actually to the other players in many times. Okay. Yeah, and when they get it, they'll spend it. So the money will kind of go back and forth within the system, which makes it very interesting. So you're never out of bidding on the various projects, the various contracts that you can then get to put bridges down across the various parts of the map and to put population back into various areas. There's the more the better areas sort of the map, like San Francisco itself, and I'm gonna get it wrong if I mention the wrong area now, like the ones that are adjacent. Those are kind of the more juicy areas, so you want to definitely try to get people in there, some of your population, but of course other people that are doing the same thing. So maybe you want to focus on the outer lying areas that don't give you as many victory points, but you may be able to easily get victory points in those areas that other people don't get, and they'll be fighting over the juicier areas. And one of the major mechanics in the game also is the AfterShock. There are aftershocks, major aftershocks, and mega aftershocks, something like that. So as you can vie for the potential to have these things go off, and of course, if you have the ability to set them off, you'll be setting them off in areas where you'd like some of other people's population to run away to other areas versus your population. So it's a give and take between trying to stay and manage the most people in an area and trying to shock others out of your area, and where you're going to spend your money to do your projects and things like that. It's a really nice gateway game. It goes from 2 to 5 players in the base game, and then there are stretch goals and things like that to go to have a 6th player expansion for the game as well. So that's AfterShock by Alan R. Moon and Bobby West. Very excited about this game.
Were you tempted just to publish it? I mean, when you were sitting down play testing it and saying, well, here we go. I mean, the name, the Alan Moon name behind it's going to pick up a lot of, there's a lot of people going to say, right, I want to see what Alan did next. But what made you decide to kind of take it to Kickstarter instead of just kind of announcing it between, between yourselves as a company and saying, okay, we've merged together. Here's a really, here's a really beautiful flagship title between ourselves and indie boards and cars and action phase games. What made you decide to go to Kickstarter?
Well, that's a good question, and that's when we picked up this game. Alan and I are actually very good friends. We hadn't had a chance to work together yet because, again, he was kind of in retirement. Alan likes to say he likes to go on cruises and he likes to play poker. That's what he likes to do with his life. When you've had such success, you don't have to work too hard. You can just relax a little bit and play games. So that was kind of what he did. And he was running his once a year convention. So we got to know each other very well. And then when he got back into this with Bobby, we signed it under Stronghold. And this was before Indie Boards and Cards and Stronghold were talking. So we signed it. We had to, do some work, this and that, make sure everything was in place. But then all of a sudden, of course, the merger occurred. And I told Alan, I said, Alan, and in conversations with Travis as well, I said, this would be a great way to get a lot of buzz on the game if we took this one as our first project under Stronghold in 4 years and put it on Kickstarter. Kickstarter is not Kickstarter has become versus what it really was initially for, and what it is for a lot of people. It's become a marketing event. Lots of people, certainly in the past, were like, I got this idea, I want to put it there. In the board game category, many companies who've got capital and lots of people are using it as marketing event, and that's what it is for us. If you think about CMON, right? They were called Cool Mini or Not at the time. CMON is the second largest company in the industry after Asmodee, and they put up almost all of their games on Kickstarter. Their games are so perfect for Kickstarter, of course, because of all the minis and all the glorious stuff that they can do to those games. However, they don't need the money. They do it because they get a lot of marketing out of it. And of course, you do make more money, of course, if it does hit well and you're making lots of direct sales. But the point is, you get all of the eyes focused on this game. Right now on Board Game Geek, it's the number one game in the hotness. Right? It's even above Terraforming Mars. AfterShock is the number one game on the Board Game Geek hotness. Now we timed it well. Again, we have talent now to know to do this. We timed a contest last week. It's running right now. There's a contest on BGG. Yeah. That pushed it up higher. We announced it's going on Kickstarter this week. It hits Kickstarter. It's going to stay in that hotness, and it's going to stay at number one for several days at least. It's a guarantee because of all those events. It is a marketing event to put it out there. And now we're going to hit social media with it and all the great things that we would normally do. And you know that in the end, whether it's a game for you or not, you know that this is going to be a fantastic production by Stronghold Games with the help of Indie Boards and Cards. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it on or very close to the schedule that we have put out, which we have scheduled it for retail release, for release to Kickstarter backers in November. And I believe that I believe we will make that. I shouldn't overpromise, but I believe we will make that, as one would expect from a company who now has a combined total of over 40 successful Kickstarters within it.
In terms of it being live and it being there, is that because you sound really animated and excited? And I know you normally sound animated and excited anyway, but you sound a little bit more animated and excited than normal, if I'm saying. The Kickstarter, is it kind of exciting to be involved in the Kickstarter process?
Oh, damn straight. So, yes. So, I didn't have to do any of the hard work for this, because thankfully, because of that. But I mean, all my staff was doing a lot of work of creating the pages and all that, and the graphics, and making sure everything was right. And I was just signing off, okay, this is good, this is good, this is good. But now, now being involved directly in a project that launched today, last night I was like, ooh, this is exciting. And this morning I woke up, my coffee, and I'm grumpy in the morning. I was like, wait a minute. Hey, I got to get awake here. In 2 hours, we're going to have a Kickstarter running. So yeah, it was a very, very exciting day today to see that we are now over 15,000 as we're talking. People are continuing to pledge. We'll probably be funded today, as I mentioned. Very exciting times. And I can't wait to see as we unlock those stretch goals and what people start saying about it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, this, it's almost Kickstarter becomes a game within a game almost now. And I'm a gamer, so this is kind of cool.
Would you put something out yourself? I mean, design-wise and stuff like that. Would you consider... me design a game? Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to be a designer. I've always said that. I'm smart enough to know what great games are because I've picked so many. I am a gamer, and I'm a decent gamer, so I'm a smart gamer. Yeah. And I'm a businessman, but I'm not a designer. Now I do. The funny thing is that you said that this week. I have this idea.
Big epiphany just now.
I had a sort of an epiphany to do something, and it's in a big way too. If it comes to fruition, will it? I don't know. If I had a bet on it right now, I'm just really busy. So I'm going to work on it and get it together, and then basically hand it over and say, this is the structure of what I want to see happen. I think this works. Let's take it from this 80% to 100%, and let's see if it happens. I don't want my name on a box. It's obviously I've done all that, so to speak. My name is my name, Stronghold Games, is me. It's on every game I've done. It's over 100 titles, and it's in most of those rule books as project manager too. My actual name, it says Stephen Buonocore. I don't need that. It's not an ego thing. I'd like another great game that I could say, you know what, this makes sense because of this, and this is why we brought this game out. And if it works, it'll be a good one. It'll be a big one. I hope the idea comes to fruition.
Yeah. What about 2 more questions, I guess, because I'm conscious of the time. The impact of digital. Do you think that's going to continue? Do you think that there's going to be almost like a more hybrid kind of card games, board games, and kind of almost like a video game, board game kind of mixture as the technology kind of expands and improves?
The short answer is sure. Yes, it's not going away. Let's put it that way, right? We're not going to see a retreat from what we see already. I do not think, however, that a technology integration will dominate most games, because I don't think that that's why people are here, right? People are here in this space because they're actually eschewing, the great word, they're actually going away from, they're saying, I don't want to be plugged in. I don't want this electronic thing here. I want to sit around this table. Yeah. I want to compete or cooperate with you. And I want to have this experience, maybe with an adult beverage next to me. That's how I game almost 90% of the time. And just enjoy our company and this experience. Now, if the electronic device can enhance the experience, so be it. Yeah. And I'm going to give a shout out to my buddy Ignacy Chevicek of Portal Games and what he accomplished with Detective. And yeah, it's a phenomenal game with a phenomenal concept that he worked on tirelessly forever to pull off. And again, this is a plug for him that I get nothing back on other than I'm enamored with his genius and what he can pull off. So the idea of electronics coming in and being part of the scene of tabletop gaming, sure. Taking over it, no. Maybe being a little bit more than it is now, because, like you said, it's in its infancy, really. It's only the last couple of years, few years that we've been seeing it. So we'll see more and exciting other ideas happening with it. But definitely not to the extent that it'll be like a Borg where they're almost like join those two things, and they'll always be like that. I think tabletop gaming will always be 95+% physical, pure, and then there'll be that 5 or less % of games that have some integration.
Yeah. I mean, I think I totally agree with you. I think there'll be cases for augmented reality, and I've seen that a little bit. Sure. On D&D campaigns where people are playing on a screen and the screen changes as the guys go about. I've seen the things like the Dized app where people are using applications in order to help them learn games, and there's obviously things like Tabletop Simulator. My issue personally for me is I'm with you. I like sitting around with my buddies on a Friday night playing cardboard, and then it's not about, okay, it's your move. It's also about, well, how's your week? And it's the kind of the social kind of interaction side of things. And my concern with all these things is if you bring a phone to a table, then it's too easy for people to end up looking at their phones. Yeah. Which is, I like true. I like the cardboard side of things, check your phone. If you're going to be doing it, take photographs. But, I don't want people because it's easy for them to sneak a look and say, I'll just check Twitter or Instagram or Snapface or whatever these young kids are looking at nowadays.
Right. So be in the moment. We're all here to have that. Let's be in this moment to the extent we can. Some people have to for work or for their kids or things like that. But let's be in this moment. Let's be together, experiencing this together, because, well, that's what we're here for. So let's do it.
Exactly. Now, one more question, okay?
No problem, man.
You're summoned to a meeting, okay? And you're sitting down
is this a meeting of indie boards and cards and Stronghold Games, or is this everybody, like my IT career back on Wall Street? Those are the scary ones. Okay,
scary meeting. Okay, so you're sitting down, indie board and cards yourself.
Yeah,
and the Asmodee guy turns up. He knocks at the door. He walks in. Okay. He says, Stephen, we kind of want you as part of the family. And in order to help you be part of the family, okay, we're going to give you whatever we want, but also we've got the power to give you any 3 board games you want from anywhere at all. We can make it happen. First editions, reprints, expansions. Just tell me what 3 games do we need to put on this table to make you even speak to us about having a meeting? So that's the question. If you could have any 3 games at all, board games from past, present, what 3 games would you like to add or have in your collection?
You know what I would take?
Yeah.
I would take 3 copies of the collector's edition of War of the Ring. Do you know what that is? You know what that is?
Yes, very.
Yeah. It's
very.
It came out when it came out. It was $400. Now you can't see a copy from the 2000. I have a copy of it, by the way, with everything that's ever been put out. Of course, it's my pride because War of the Ring is my single favorite game on the planet. It is my, and again, this is not in my catalog, of course. It's my single. It's the most thematic, mechanically sound, thematically excellent. It's just genius, that game, and I love it on every level. And if I was able to get 3 more copies of that, I would give it to people who love this game as much as I do. And I have friends and acquaintances that have come up to me and said, "You're right. This is the greatest. I love it. I wish I had the collector's edition. I just have the regular one, and I've painted it." But yeah, it's the collector's edition. The way that Ares Games did that when they actually brought that thing out is so gorgeous, and it comes in a wooden box that opens with a hinge, and it looks like when you're holding it, you look like a hobbit because the thing is about the box is about 3 feet by 2 feet, so like a meter by 2/3 of a meter.
It's
humongous. So you hold it, and you literally look like a hobbit holding this book, and it's just the most gorgeous production of any game. And I'm not a man who must have any. I have to have something. So if I could have 3 more of them, I would have them and give them to people who would cherish them as much as me. And I am honest about that.
Then you would probably take the 3 copies and then give the Asmodee guy a clip round the ear. And then I'd say, get out. I'd take the copies and say, I'll think about the meeting. Get out.
I'll
think about it. Go on. Don't let the door bang you in the ass in the way,
Nah, I do love them. I have lots of friends at Asmodee, including the former CEO of Asmodee North America, Chris Petersons. I consider him a very good friend. He's been very good to me in discussions about various topics in the industry, and I think net they've done a great job. It's just that, you know what? There's room for other people at the top. So, while we're always going to be smaller, that goes without saying, because they are they're a $1 billion+ company.
Yeah.
We're going to grab a little bit of their share on the way up. That's all I'm going to say.
Slice.
That's the slice. This is just a sliver. There's a little bit for everybody out there.
Just a New Jersey slice.
A New Jersey slice. I like it. Very nice. Richard, you got some good ones out there. Very nice.
There you go. If people want to keep an eye on you and what you're up to, where can we find you on the internet webs? And I feel insulted that I even have to ask you this question.
That's okay. It's a good way to close the show, right? Well, I always tell people, please go over to strongholdgames.com. We keep our website updated with our release schedule. It's right there on the front at the top, so you can see everything coming out that we've announced so far. You can, of course, go check out the AfterShock Kickstarter on Kickstarter. You'll like looking at the videos and what we put together. It looks really great. I am personally very interactive with the fans on Twitter. It's sort of my way of really staying in touch with people. I put up most of the posts out there. Sometimes some of my staff do as well, but I answer all the ones that come out there. And I'm the one. If you want to actually talk to me, hit me up on Twitter. We've got an Instagram account as well. Our Facebook page constantly gets updated. It's /Stronghold Games, of course. And if you want to talk like this with me more, Board Games Insider Podcast, which is my weekly to bi-weekly podcast with Ignacy Chevicek, the president of Portal Games. Yeah. We have an industry podcast where we do a half hour to 45 minutes every week to 2 weeks, and we basically talk about the industry. We take questions from our guild on Board Game Geek, news from the industry, and of course what's happening at both companies to keep everybody up to date. So that's it. I hope people will check us out there at Board Games Insider as well. Thank you, Richard, so much for having me on. You're the man. You're the man, Richard. Even if you don't like terraforming, there's no accounting. No accounting for taste.
I'm allowed a minor misjudgment now and again. What we'll do is we'll make sure we put all the shows, all the notes in the show notes, so we've got notes to show.
Thank you.
If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, go to the internet web, search for We're Not Wizards. You'll find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. You'll find us on our website, we'renotwizards.com, we'renotwizards.blogspot.com. You can email us, magic@we'renotwizards.com, and you can also find us on the various podcast catchers. So your Stitcher, Spreaker, Aircast, Castbox, Podknife, Podbean, all those wonderful different places. If you like what you've listened to tonight, and you have to have, then do us a favour and tell somebody else that we exist. The other thing you can do though is if you do like what you've listened to tonight, please go to Apple Podcasts and drop us a subscription. If you like us even more than that, then consider giving us a rating or review. Now, as we say, don't give us 10 stars, because it makes us big-headed. But don't give us 1 star, because it makes us cry. Give us something in the middle, like a 5, because it's average. And we're just a little bit average, But the person who's not been average tonight is the wonderful, the fantastic Mr. Stephen Buonocore. Thank you again, sir, for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich, for having me. I really appreciate it. Great time.
And there's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Stephen?
We're not wizards.
Definitely not. And I just have to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Stephen. Say goodbye, Stephen.
Bye-bye, everybody.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe. Roll6s.com. And, I can't, how do I finish this one? I just, I'm just going to, goodbye.
Say goodnight, Richard.
Good night, Richard.
There you go. That's how I was hoping you get that. Bye, everybody.
Bye.